Welcome for today's edition of Tech Tuesday by Full Sail University. Today's discussion is about cybersecurity, the digital defense systems. My name is Garcia. I am the Vice President of Emerging Technologies at Full Sail University. And we have a great panel today of Full Sail University graduates. Welcome, everyone. We'll have Laika Segura, and she's a cloud infrastructure architect with Amazon Web Services. And 2017 Full Sail University graduate with expertise in cloud engineering in AWS and Google Cloud and Linux. We also have Mr. Brice Perez. He's a customer engineer at Google in the area of healthcare and life sciences. He also have worked with Deloitte and in Vanderbilt University and NASA. Welcome, Brice. And we also have Kyle Koppe, a cloud security architect at GuidePoint Security, 2017 Full Sail University graduate, and expertise in architecture and automation of cloud security for financial and healthcare in different environments like AWS and Microsoft Azure, and GCP. I'm going to call each of your names and give you a few words for introduction. And if you please tell me where you are and where you're currently working on. I'm going to start with you, Brice.
Brice Perez, customer engineer, as you said, healthcare, life sciences, and basically focusing on data analytics. That is my specialization, and currently located in Nashville, Tennessee.
Thank you, Brice. And Laika, you are in a new home now. So where are you? What are you currently working on?
Yes, hi. So I'm Laika Segura. I work for Amazon Web Services, currently based in London, England. I was working with healthcare and life sciences back in Amazon USA, but then when I moved here, I moved to global financial services. I specialize in DevOps right now and working on some of the major banking companies in here and in Europe.
Thank you, Laika. And Kyle Koppe, where are you and what are you currently working on, Kyle?
Alrighty, my name is Kyle Koppe. Like you said, I'm a cloud security architect. Actually, as of today, I'm actually cloud automation lead at GuidePoint Security, which is pretty cool. Right now, I'm building out our cloud automation practice, and our the main customer that I'm working with right now, we're working on building a click-to-cloud kind of framework, all built around DevOps and automation, and making the cloud much more accessible in a one-stop shop, regardless of what cloud it's going to.
Well, congratulations on that promotion, and very cool to be doing a new project. This is a good thing about technology. People are changing all the time, doing new things. And so thank you, everyone, for your introduction. We'll go over some questions for the first 30 minutes. And for you in the audience, please submit your questions via the comments in Facebook, and our team will get those to me, and we will address those in the second half of our stream today. So let's dive right in. I thought I'd start by defining cybersecurity, and because cybersecurity in itself is not a technology in itself, and cybersecurity is a practice of protecting systems and networks and data and programs from being attacked. And this attack usually aim at accessing, changing, destroying, or stealing sensible information. Examples are like cyber attacks to steal credit card information or taking over remote computers. So it sounds like something that it should be the responsibility of companies and that hold our data. And so my first question to you is why cybersecurity is so important, even for regular people? And I'm going to start with you, Laika.
So to me, data is money. It's always been that way for the past, 5-10 years now. So in my opinion, security is important even for regular people because it's our identity now. Just as an example, when I moved here to the UK, I applied for a SIM from one of the companies here. And next thing I know, my data was sold to a scam company, which kept calling me and asking me for my bank account details, posing themselves as somebody from the company. So I think protecting yourself against that is very important because you're vulnerable always to those kinds of attacks.
Wow, quick example right there, very quickly. Kyle, why is cybersecurity so important even for regular people?
So honestly, like I said, data is our new kind of currency. So many of the societies become so irrevocably intertwined with this technology and services that we use, and we pay for a lot of those services not with money but with our personal data. And so, one, keeping yourself private, keeping intimate and sensitive information that you don't necessarily want out there to just yourself and the parties that it needs to be shared with. That's incredibly important for anyone. And so many of our really intimate interactions and memories are now being stored in some sort of cloud storage system. And there's so many scams out there that those things get breached, they get encrypted, and they get ransomed back to you, or you get blackmailed. So scammers are everywhere, and they don't discriminate on whether or not you're an information security professional or just an everyday person. So it's important for everyone to maintain good security health.
Thank you, Kyle. And for you, Brice, why is cybersecurity so important even for regular people?
I love what my peers have said, and especially what Kyle just recently said too, is that security hackers or just hackers or people are after your information. They don't discriminate at all, you know, and a lot of times is what is the easiest low hanging fruit I can get to. And most time people have their guards down when it comes to not being tech savvy or just unknown to the latest and greatest technology. And usually the latest greatest technology may have the latest and greatest bug or malware or something in it as well. So day to day, people, you're focused on your role, your job, and you're not thinking about certain things. And I think it's extremely important that regular people be on the forefront of knowing how to protect their information as we continue to go down this digital age.
Thank you. So, as I was researching for today's show, I came across a presentation from Frank Abagnale, who was speaking at Google, where Brice worked. And uh, this is the person that inspired the Steven Spielberg's movie Catch Me If You Can. And for those that are not familiar with the movie of the story of Frank, in the 60s, when he was a teenager, he ran away from home and lived off forging checks and impersonating people. He impersonated pilots and attorneys and doctors, and he was so good at it that after he paid his debt to society, he went to jail in several countries, actually. The FBI hired him, and today he's a respected security expert. So anyway, somebody asked him when he spoke at Google if with today's technology he would be having able to do what he did back then. And I must confess, the answer surprised me because he said even easier. And then so I want to ask you in the panel, do you think that it's easy to steal people's data? How should people protect? I will start with you, Kyle.
So yeah, Frank Abagnale's a really cool guy, and actually he works with the FBI to train CISOs across the industry in security best practices and kind of the realities around breaches. He was a speaker at our company kickoff last year. But aside from that, the question at hand, is it easy to steal people's data? Yes. And so approaching this from the space I work in, where I'm working with people developing applications and architectures, is like Brice said earlier, don't be the lowest hanging fruit. You have to do the simple things, protecting your data, encrypting it where you can, encrypting it in transit and at rest, making sure that you're doing your due diligence and penetration testing, just covering all of your security bases and making sure you're doing the simple things often and well. And from a more consumer facing answer, Make sure that you use distinct passwords. I always suggest password managers like OnePass, KeyPass, or LastPass. Those are all great tools for the average person to use, and have one complex password that they remember, and everything else is auto-filled. And that segues really nicely into leveraging multi-factor authentication everywhere that you can. There's great apps like Google's Authenticator, Authy, that really integrate with things like Facebook, like Instagram, and just give you a quick little prompt that says, is this you? And you either approve or deny, and that goes miles into protecting your data as a consumer.
Thank you, Kyle. How about you, Brice? Do you think it's easy to steal people's data? How should people protect?
I will have to high five Kyle on the great explanation. He detailed it well. He even threw in some tips and pointers, and he fantastically said. I say yes, and it's sad to say that, but it's the truth. I think that as technology continues to make our lives easier and we perform more certain tasks that we feel that are efficient, that's convenient, it makes us more vulnerable in some cases if we're careless. Whether it's social engineering attacks. I like to think of the idea that, often we would think about only one front door, and we put a lock on it. But what if we have multiple doors, multiple windows, and we just left those open? And we're like, oh, nobody's coming through the front door. But cyber security attackers, they always are hackers, wherever way you want to the word it. They're always looking for alternate ways in. And as we have more access to our information through our technology, whether it's a video game system to a Google Assistant or Alexa or whoever they may be, they will find a way to obtain pieces of information and put it together like a jigsaw puzzle to get a better picture of you. And a lot of our information is out there in the public, and we may feel like, I don't care. I want to be in the public. I want to be seen. I want more likes, and that actually brings more attention to you and give you details that you probably would never thought you were giving away based on a simple Instagram picture and had some things showing up in the background. I probably am violating some things with stuff in the background. People look at pictures of your family and put pieces together and find out where you are and things like that. So it can be scary, and we have to really take in consideration how scary it can be, because there's just people out there that don't have those certain values, or their values may be just relative in their way of saying that they're actually doing something good for themselves. So.
Thank you. Laika, do you think it's easy to steal people's data? And I'm going to add to the Kyle's suggestion of using password manager. I'm always being a little afraid of them because I think, well, what if somebody hacks a password manager and then get access to all my passwords? So if you can address that as well, that would be great. Laika, go ahead.
Yes. So before technology existed or became prevalent in our everyday lives, people were usually dependent on social engineering, calling you up, finding information about you through that one. So it's a little bit harder to find something out about a person that they can eventually use. Unlike now, all they have to do is go on your Facebook page, go on your Instagram, go on your Twitter, whatever, TikTok, or whatever social media sites that you have, and they can literally find everything about you if you're not careful. And with that said, they would be able to as Brice and Kyle said, piece information together and do a successful phishing attack or successful hack even. With password managers and all of that, the one biggest tip is that make sure your passwords are safe. 12 to 16 characters, combination of big, small letters, phrases that are not really related to each other or something like that would help you protect yourself from those kinds of attacks.
Thank you. All right, so started to make it scary for everyone. Thank you. All right, so in addition to our computers and our phones, we have a whole nother generation of devices that now are coming into our lives as well, and they can also connect to the internet, and they call this IoT, or Internet of Things. It means that if I have a network home, which a lot of us do, have a wireless network at home connected to the internet to go outside. Not only the computers or the phones are connected to the internet through it, but also your security cameras and your garage opener and your doorbell and even your fridge. I still don't get that one. And in warehouses, we also have new devices that are counting inventory automatically and all sort of different industrial applications. So it's amazing, but with each connected device that we have, as Brice was describing, is another point of entry and another possible point of attack. So if the goal of cybersecurity is to prevent attacks, with so many devices and so many different manufacturers and different levels of security, how do we prevent attacks? What should people do if they do get hacked? I'll start with you, Kyle.
All right, so definitely a loaded question. But so the thing is there really isn't a silver bullet, and I really do like the analogy that Brice used with you lock your front door, you think you're safe, but you have X number of windows and other doors that might not have locks or as much security, and again, it harkens back to doing the small things right from the people who are producing these things. You need, as someone who works with the producers of these different devices and technologies, we work with them to make sure that they are doing those things right. They're using secure protocols and making sure that something that is a consumer device that's going on a consumer's network isn't actively making them an easy target. But of course, there's always going to be those edge cases and kind of smaller manufacturers that maybe don't have the best security hygiene that are going to be selling a lot of devices. And as a consumer, you have to realize that the device that you got for maybe half the price of one of the more prominent manufacturers of that, while it was a great price, there is a trade-off there, and you need to be able to recognize that trade-off and be looking for that trade-off and take steps to compensate for that trade-off. And so if you get one of these not so nice devices, maybe have a separate network on your home Wi-Fi that is just for those connected devices, so they aren't connected to, let's say, your local PC that has all of your videos and pictures from the last 10 to 20 years. But yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. How about you, Brice? With so many devices and different levels of security, how do we prevent attacks? And what should people do if they get attacked? Is it a good idea to have every device at home connected?
Yeah, it is strange. I struggle with the whole refrigerator thing as well, and being a connected device. I heard that you can actually look on an app and see how many eggs you have left or something weird, but I'm pretty sure there's some type of reason behind it, or it's all a gimmick at this point. But yeah, I was discussing with my wife even that if you go down our neighborhood, almost everyone either has some type of Ring doorbell or a Nest doorbell or something like that. And it wasn't like that when I was a kid, when you walk down the neighborhood and everybody could pretty much see what everybody's doing. And it can be a little, I guess it can set you back if you really think about the fact that there's just someone looking at you all the time, even in your neighbors, access to this information. But to protect against just cybersecurity attacks, I think Kyle mentioned in the beginning, and I think it's a huge thing. A lot of people haven't got to that point. We just so dependent on these very sad passwords, less than 5 characters, nothing really complex, and the same thing across millions of sites. And all of a hacker needs is just one of them. And then they start to say, well, I'm guessing they probably use this one for this, and they keep hopping around to all your information. But 2FA, and I think the least one, and I don't usually recommend it if there's another option, but the 2-factor authentication with text message is a good step forward after the password, and most sites are starting to require that. And then MFA, the multi-factor, I guess you go step up a little bit longer with the basically an off code that you'll have, whether it's a little device that most people in the enterprise work have RSA code that keeps changing. And now you have it on your phones where you actually could see the code change, whether it's Google Authenticator, Microsoft has one, LastPass has one. I will always, if you go that route, always really do your research and understand how it works. Because if you lose that device that's always changing code, it could be more difficult to get back into it again. And then choose one that has a backup. And that's that's pretty standard on some of them where they have some type of backup feature. So if you lose that device, you can restore it to another device as well. And if you're going to use something like Password Keep or LastPass, definitely try to consider not only just the MFA tool, but going up even higher to a UbiCo key or a Titan key is what we have at Google. Like I have one that's basically too personal, and then one that's called a Titan key. And it's basically, they'll come in different forms. It can go into an iPhone, and this one's USB-C. Some of them are NFC, where you can just tap the back of a phone. And it just taking this step up the levels to another level where basically the individual trying to get into that site, they will need your password, and they also will need the actual device, and it's usually on you. If you're going that route, research, of course, have two of them. One is a backward. If you lose the other one, you can actually eliminate it from the system. So it's just different ways. I wouldn't say that, you feel like you got your fingerprint or the face recognition on there, that's the best thing, because we all know that deep fake and various different things that could, and it's not always that accurate. So don't just depend upon those things. Fingerprint as well. But I think that's a good place to start, at least for the general public, is maybe 2FA, MFA, and some type of security key, which is widely available for anybody to buy.
You bring up a great example about the face authentication. I have an identical twin. It doesn't work, and so it has this all hole. But I want to, before I go to Mike, I wanted to summarize a little bit about that, because just so we don't get lost in the definitions. So password is probably the easiest, simplest way that people are known to log into systems and software and websites and things like that. You have your login name, and then you have your password. And then if you are an Apple user, especially like I am, I have two-factor authentication, which you talked about. And my wife thinks that's annoying. No, it's not annoying. It's really protective. What it is that you sign out into your account, and then it sends you a text message and with another code that you have to plug in. And that's what it's called two-factor authentication, because it's the one that you're doing plus the one that they're sending you in that moment. And so if you're not with your phone, and like a hacker could be, then they wouldn't be able to access your account. And then Brice explained even higher levels of authentication on top of that, when you have a device that, and these are a lot of corporations do those, in which it generates a new password constantly. It's like a stream of characters. And then you do this like 3 factors or 4 factors. And it makes it even harder, because you have to have that keychain with you at all times. So, but if you're home, I mean, that's obviously more of a corporate thing. But if you're home, every time, and Google does this, and all of the big companies does it, they ask you if you want to sign up for multi-factor, and or at least 2-factor. Go ahead and do that. It's just for your protection. It's more steps, but it's for your protection. So like I go into you, with so many, again, with so many devices, how do we protect ourselves? How do we protect ourselves?
Yeah, I think Brice and Kyle already covered everything that you can do to protect yourselves when it comes to that one. But the number one thing is, don't connect all of them if you don't need them. Like, keep it to a minimum, keep it to what you need is the most important thing, I would say, because most people, especially if they get something, they immediately connect it and then never use it ever again. So I think that's one of security flaws as well. And always make sure that if you connect something, keep track of everything that you have connected in your home. Because sometimes emails would come in saying, hey, you have this connected in your home, and you forgot your password, or there's a billing issue or whatever. And then they redirect you to a site that looks similar and ask you for your username and password, and then bam, and then you stole everything and they can get into your device. So that's one of the things as well. But yeah, as Brice and Kyle said, just use 2FA, a 2-factor, multi-factor, and if you can, like a key, and of course keep keep it to a minimum, keep it to what you need.
Thank you. Very important, they mentioned this before. Don't use the same password for everything. If somebody steals your password from that obscure website you sign up once and sell that to somebody, and then they can try to log into your other accounts using that. All right, so we're going to get a little layer deeper now. And this concept of an attack. So in a cyber attack, people try to accessing data, accessing program systems, things like that. But now experts say that it's possible to do even more damage. That if they can get close enough to your car, they can take over your car. And the right people with the right knowledge and the right equipment, and even they can, if they get close enough to you, they can take over a pacemaker that you may have in your heart and slow it down, accelerate it, and even take you out. So this goes way beyond stealing your data. So we're living in an area that tech is helping us with our health. And I think all three of you have worked at some level in healthcare. And so does cybersecurity, the profession, need to evolve to cover those kind of attacks of devices that can harm us? Go with you, Kyle, first.
Alrighty. Yeah, no, definitely. We live in a really fascinating age where everything technologically is coming of age in a really fascinating way with IoT, and we have devices everywhere, things like pacemakers. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Do you think cybersecurity, the profession, should evolve to cover attacks that can harm people?
Yes. So of course, so that harkens back to what I said about working with these companies that are manufacturing these devices. As producers of these, that due diligence has to be there. It has to, because people's lives become at stake. And to that extent, I really think there needs to be some, like, beyond just technology as a field, there needs to be some sort of regulation and protection for consumers that hold these device manufacturers and software developers accountable for these items that have such tangible effects and bridge the world from the Internet of Things to literally your heart. And the kind of sad truth of the nature is, if there's a dedicated threat actor that wants to do something, it's likely, if they are well funded enough or have the means to do so, they eventually will do it at some point. That's evidenced by Stuxnet, which is a really fascinating story. But just the TLDR is that in Iran, there was some centrifuges for nuclear reactors that Israel and America bridged an air gap. So that means that this network that these centrifuges were operating on weren't connected to the internet. They managed to get malware onto that system and cause those nuclear reactors to melt down, where the metrics and all the feedback that the people managing those systems were getting, everything seemed okay. But in reality, things were melting down. And that in itself could have massively destructive consequences. But it just goes to show that if someone is well equipped enough and wants to do something, is motivated to do something, it will likely happen. There just needs to be some sort of repercussions, whether those be regulatory or some other sort of retaliation.
Thank you. Accountability, so important. Laika, do you think cybersecurity should evolve to cover attacks on devices that can harm people?
Yes. But as constantly is ever changing, everyone should evolve with it. I always say that prevention is better than cure, and the best thing that cybersecurity can do is to try and prevent those hacks. But as Kyle said, if somebody has the resources to access anything, they probably can, and there's nothing we can do to stop it if we don't know what they're trying to do, if they're trying to do something new, something we haven't heard of. So cybersecurity itself and technology is just going to keep evolving. And that's it.
Thank you, Laika. Brice, do you think cybersecurity should evolve to cover attacks that can harm people?
Absolutely. I mean, as cybersecurity continues to evolve, the technology evolves, both have to go in the same direction. And the technology can't be complacent, just like we spoke about most people and how we manage and use passwords. That has to evolve, that has to change as well. And I know that we're getting to a place where we are getting to a society, or on the enterprise side of things, we're getting to a society where we try to talk about passwordless way of handling certain things. And just thinking about it, even with having no VPN, certain things like that, just thinking outside of the box of how certain things are handled to evolve with cybersecurity, but also make it convenient at the same time. When these certain things start to harm our lives, it's very similar to what, like I said, you may not even know that type of attack could exist, or that the way that they're using that to harm someone. You never thought about it, whether you tested it over and over from a different perspective, but you never thought that they could create something that could interfere with the car or something like that. But there should be regulations in place, certain things in place, policies, a plan, a disaster plan in place to retract that, handle the situation in a proper way, and respond to it quickly if it does happen. And most corporations are prepared, should be prepared, and to handle those different things, because it can lead to lives being changed, altered in many different ways.
Thank you. So let's talk about that profession of cybersecurity. And I would love to know how does someone prepare for a career in cybersecurity? You know, we offer a degree here, a full cell, and that's obviously one portion of it. But um, and at the same time, I also love to know what is the biggest misconception that people have about what you do. And so I'll start with you, like, and what's the biggest misconception that people have about what you do? And how do you explain your grandma what you do? And how should people prepare for a career in cyber?
Okay, so the biggest misconception is that we sit in front of a computer and code all day with a black background and green text. That's probably the biggest misconception, because Matrix or whatever show did that. And one of the biggest misconceptions as well is what they show on TV, right? Where you write a couple of codes and bam, you're inside the network, or you're able to hack something. Well, in technicality, that's not correct at all. There's so much going on into cybersecurity, and it's just not all coding. There are a couple of different areas as well, which I'm pretty sure Kyle can talk to you about, and he's more knowledgeable in that one than I am. But there's compliance, there's people who do documentation all day, audit all day. And those are just some of the things that you can get into when you go into cybersecurity. It does not necessarily mean that you have to know how to code. If you can understand code, or if you can read code, if you can follow through, all of the papers or whatever, you can probably get into the cybersecurity field. How to get into it? You have to pick a specialization. I remember talking to one of the instructors at Full Sail before, and he told me that he is the VP of security for Marriott, I think. And he told me that under his team, there's like 6 different teams working on different things that does not necessarily have to do with coding. So you have to pick what you want to do, and then you have to focus on that, master everything that you can, or if not, learn everything that you can.
Thank you. That's great advice. Brice, what is the biggest misconception about what you do? Is the question. How do you explain your grandma what you do? And how do people prepare for a career in cyber?
Yeah, so I would just say, what like I said was actually pretty funny but true. It would irritate me of how one of the favorite shows is, I think, Criminal Minds, and the young lady's inside the cyber room, and she's just typing, and then all this stuff is coming up on the screen, and I'm like, this is so fake. But and there probably is some people out there that actually can do that. I'm pretty sure they wrote a program and scripted to do it, but whatever. But I think that it takes time, and I think a quote recently came out where it was saying, I think it said, take your time, but don't waste your time. So it's a twofold thing where you really have to take your time on figuring out what you want to specialize in, and then not wasting time, always willing to learn and search and participate in hackathons, things like that. A more safer approach to understanding what hacking is all about, what cybersecurity is all about. There's tons of different information out there. Even if you want to know about digital literacy and some of the things we talk about, taking care of your passwords, taking care of your accounts, and how certain things work with the internet, to get a conceptual view of the whole IT world before you start to go down one particular path. And I think with security, it has its place in every different type of specialization. You'll see it come up even with my particular career. People say data specialists, and they would assume that I'm always just focused on the data and analytics, but there's some overlap there. A lot of times the conversation, what comes up first is security first, and how do you secure that data, especially in the healthcare field, in any field for that matter, because there's some people involved, whether it's consumer data, financial data, the list goes on. And how you continue to prepare is just being willing to pivot. And I've said this plenty of times to different individuals, is understanding how technology can change from department to department. Whether if you're pursuing a business intelligence degree, somewhere along the lines there's some passwords or connections, security of API, JSON web tokens, all these different things may come up. How you manage APIs, all these different things are going to come up in your field. And how you're visualizing that data. You learn about visualization tools, but you may be working for a security company of how they are analyzing their telemetry data. So you got to be able to open your mind and be willing to pivot. There's tons of different companies that do wonderful different things, and they're focused on security, but it could be security in the network, security of the data, from data perspective. The list goes on, protecting. And that's just pretty much my thoughts on that one.
That's really cool. I'm glad that you got into the different kinds of security, the data, the networking, there are many layers of that. So Kyle, what's the biggest misconception about what you do? How do you explain your grandma what you do? And how should people prepare for a career in cyber?
So not to belabor the point, but the black screen, green text just flowing across the screen, that's just not what happens at all. A couple of things that both Micah and Brice said, I want to pull back into this. Like I said, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. A lot of what I do is focused on making sure that before anything actually gets to the cloud, before an application goes live, it is secure and it isn't the lowest hanging fruit. And so we're trying to bake in as many controls focused on whether it be the infrastructure or the actual application, that those things are done well and done securely. And then one thing Brice said about being able to adapt, I think that's a great piece of information or a piece of advice, because my own advice for anyone is security is very framework driven, and there are so many technologies. It's ludicrous how many things that I've touched just in the last couple of years that I suddenly have to understand on a very intimate level. And what I've found is helpful for me operating in a consulting capacity is developing mental frameworks in sets of questions that I ask myself when I'm approaching a new device, application, new coding language, new cloud. Completely, I had a engagement with Oracle Cloud, which I didn't realize anyone actually used. So you still want to be looking for the same things with security. How do I maintain visibility into what's going on in this? How do I encrypt my data? How do I protect my data? How do I minimize my network footprint? And how do I manage my identities? Do I trust these people? Do I not trust anyone and develop profiles based on different metadata and information that's flowing through a system to determine a level of trust that I can assign to a user or device. Just the list is really endless, but those questions are the same regardless of what technology you're working with. It's just finding the right answers, and using those as a guide is really, really, really helpful. I've found. So that's one of my pieces of advice. Sorry.
Thank you, Kyle. That's very complete. And all three of you had a good advice, so I don't have to ask a question specifically about what advice would you give somebody that wants to get into cyber. Um, so combination of technologies is something super important and artificial intelligence and machine learning seems to be everywhere now. Um, um, what do you think? What is the role of machine learning and artificial intelligence in cybersecurity and cloud technologies in general? I'll start with you, Laika.
So I was working on a client here, a banking client, where one of our security measures is actually the first layer is actually using AI and ML to try and detect fraudulent transactions and all of and all the transactions that's going through the bank. And then once it's marked, then it goes to the person for review. So I think that makes life simpler, and I think that's one of the biggest things that it can contribute. But the other thing as well is that I don't know how many of you have seen the show Persons of Interest or something like that. That show, I think it's gonna become real like one of these days. Like AI and ML would play a part in to create something like that. Maybe not exactly like that, but something close to like that. I'm trying to detect the percentage that a crime would happen in a certain area or a certain place or with a certain person. So I think we're going towards that one, maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now. But I really think that we're headed towards that direction.
That's awesome. Kyle, what is the role of AI, ML, the artificial intelligence, machine learning in cybersecurity and cloud technologies in general?
So the use case that Leica used is a great example of how AI and ML is really helping us identify fraudulent transactions, weird behavior with a user. So like one of my favorite tools, there's a specific alert for this person logged into this account from North Carolina, and then 5 minutes later logged into it from Crimea. That travel is not possible to do that in 5 minutes. Maybe you should look into this. That's another way that we're using AI and ML. And then I think Leica brings up another great point around the use of facial recognition paired with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I definitely want to bring back into the conversation. We need regulation around that severely, because we've seen abuses of that sort of power in certain places around the world, and we really need to proceed with a lot of caution, because the tools are incredibly powerful, but technology is a dual-edged sword, and for every cut that it makes for progress, it can make one for the digression. So yeah, we just need to be wary and hold both private enterprise and our elected officials accountable for those things.
Thank you so much. Brice, what is the role of artificial intelligence and machine learning in cloud technologies and in cybersecurity?
I think that basically it's all about what has been talked about between Leica and Kyle already is intent prediction. Just trying to, it can be extremely difficult, but as time progresses, the models are getting better. That the machine learning is using to train for artificial intelligence is basically how you can consider, if a person has the incentive to make a bad behavior, or take a bad action. And that could be difficult to detect, but you need a lot of previous information, previous history of habits. But then we all experience it at some type of point with our bank account. At some point, we do a transaction in one area, and we usually don't, shop at that particular place or get gas from a particular brand. and then it gets declined, or you get a call or a text message saying were these last 3 transactions yours. So, they're using some type of analysis. I wouldn't say that it's machine learning or artificial intelligence, but I think that'll get more to a stage, instead of being reactive, it'll become preemptive in a sense. And I think that's where a lot of things are going, is preemptive ops, trying to handle a situation before, it actually happens. It can be dangerous in some sense, like the movie that was mentioned by like in a way, or even I think there's another one, Total Recall, someone creating a crime, or completing a crime. So it could be a iffy place of when you start to apply and lock people out of certain things, or prevent them from doing things, or taking rights from them because you predicted that they may do something harmful. But I think it has to get to a place where not necessarily targeting an individual, but maybe preventing them access of certain things if there's enough data or information against them to say that they might actually complete this task, or preventing just an attack from happening, just because of it noticed that weird behaviors are happening that is not the norm.
Thank you. As we are turning into the last portion of the last few minutes of our show today, because the show is called Tech Tuesday, I always like to talk about technology in general as well. And the question that I always close with is, what do you see in technology today that gets you really excited about the future? I'll start with you, Kyle. What do you see in technology today, or what technology do you see today that gets you really excited about the future?
So I'll pivot back to my more enterprise and producer facing line of thinking. But so there's my favorite personal thing about the cloud is not necessarily the fact that it's hosted somewhere else. It's the fact that everything is now code. Everything's API driven. Everything can be tracked very easily and automated very easily. And so since we're codifying everything becomes very templatized. And those templates you can sanitize before you're ever actually pushing them out the door to do something. So we've seen a similar evolution with application development, where you have static code analysis tools that will help identify vulnerabilities in applications before they're pushed out the door. We're starting to see an evolution of this idea of policy as code. So you're writing your standards and your best practices and not relying on humans to catch those. We're actually, in a programmatic way, in an automated way, providing assurance that your infrastructure and anything that you can templatize is getting pushed out the door in a secure fashion. And it does so in an automated way that maintains the velocity that business and innovation needs, that we've become so accustomed to. There's releases like 10 times a day at some companies. You maintain that same speed, but in the end, you have a more secure product. So policy as code is like my favorite thing right now.
That's super cool. I think a few shows ago we had some software developer for Netflix, and he was saying something outrageous, like it's hundreds of deployments a day, different areas of the application. So it's definitely a very exciting area for technology. Brice, what do you see in technology today that gets you really excited about the future?
Yeah, I would have to say, similar to what Khan says, is portability of application technology. The idea that we are going towards a more I would say, distributed cloud, where there's an agnostic to people don't really want to think about which provider or where it is, in a sense, whether it's on-prem, it's hybrid, multi-cloud. I want my application to work, and I just want to be able to submit the code. And it goes to what benefits the company, whether it's a certain region, they want a certain data center, they want to take advantage of something that's unique in Amazon's cloud that maybe Microsoft or Google doesn't have, and vice versa. And not be too caught up on, this particular cloud, that cloud. It's an idea of taking advantage of what's best fit for the need at the time to solve a particular problem, but then not bothered by the security of every single different cloud, or whether it's on-prem or not. Not saying that you lose out on security at all, but there's a consistency and there's a type of expectation there when you decided to use one of those providers. And of course, every one of those companies I mentioned provide the highest level of security that you can imagine, and better than most companies what they can do on-prem. But at the same time, a lot of people don't want to be bothered by the overhead, and the organization have to do their part as well. So as time progresses, I think that some of this technology will be a little bit more seamless, more agnostic, and it can cater more to the developers so they can focus on the important things and not just a lot of hardware and infrastructure, and just allowing to pump out more a better product, more efficient product, like you mentioned, over 100 different deployments a day through Netflix to deliver a quality product. So that's the excitement I have around that.
That's super awesome, man. Micah, you had last word. What do you see in technology today that gets you really excited about the future?
Yeah, so just the power of cloud overall is what gets me excited. It's not even as Kyle said, the low cost or whatever. It's the power of companies or of individuals to get the highest possible machines in real time to solve their problems and use those machines effectively and efficiently is one of the things that really excites me. As well as using cloud does not necessarily just mean not owning servers or saving money or whatever, but it means having the ability to deploy several number of instances, several number of applications in one go or in one click of a finger is amazing. And I'm excited to see, the arrival of quantum computers, where it's going to take us and how it's going to be used is really exciting.
This time was you who mentioned quantum computers. I think it was Brice who mentioned it last time. And not a lot of people talk about it. I get so excited about quantum computer. And thank you so much. I want to thank all three of you, Laika, Brice, and Kyle, for taking time out of your very busy lives to share your experiences with us and with our audience. And thank you very much for attending. We'll see you next in 2 weeks. Bye bye.